I held the glossy strip of 4 photographs in my trembling hand, my chest tightening as the bright afternoon sunlight illuminated the unmistakable truth captured in the final frame. What was supposed to be a innocent, joyous afternoon at a sunlit countryside wedding had suddenly unraveled a decade of carefully constructed secrets, leaving my heart racing and my entire world irrevocably shifted. Before we step into this emotional journey of hidden devotion, unspoken fear, and the life-changing courage of second chances, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and the power of love to heal old wounds, please take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel to join our growing family. For nearly 10 years, Maeve had been my absolute anchor, the steady heartbeat in a chaotic world that seemed to constantly pull the ground from beneath my feet. Gavin and Maeve had grown up in the same small, coastal town where the sea breeze carried the scent of saltwater and pine across sun-drenched streets every afternoon. They had shared every milestone imaginable, from surviving the heartbreaking loss of Gavin's mother during their teenage years to celebrating college graduations, career changes, and every minor victory in between. To everyone in their circle, they were the definition of an unbreakable friendship, 2 souls who understood each other without speaking a single word. Yet, beneath the easy smiles, shared inside jokes, and quiet late-afternoon coffee conversations, lay an ocean of unspoken emotions that neither had ever dared to cross. Gavin had loved Maeve in silence for as long as he could remember, but the terrifying fear of destroying the only constant relationship in his life had kept his feelings locked tightly behind a wall of protective friendship. On a warm Saturday afternoon, nestled within the rolling green hills of a sprawling estate, their mutual friends Bryce and Sutton were celebrating their wedding under a clear, brilliant sky. The sun hung high, casting a golden radiance over the flower-adorned lawn where guests gathered, laughing and sipping iced drinks in the gentle breeze. Gavin stood near the perimeter of the courtyard in his fitted grey suit, his eyes naturally drifting through the crowd until they landed on Maeve. She was breathtaking in an emerald green dress that caught the sunlight with every movement, her soft brown waves tumbling over her shoulders as she laughed with a group of old acquaintances. Watching her, Gavin felt a familiar pang in his chest, a poignant mix of profound gratitude for her presence and a quiet, lingering sorrow for the boundary he believed he could never. Maeve, noticing Gavin standing alone near the sun-dappled edge of the patio, walked over to him with a radiant smile that instantly warmed his spirit. Taking his hand with a familiarity that sent a quiet jolt through his pulse, she led him across the lawn toward the photo booth, declaring with playful enthusiasm that they could not leave the celebration without a proper photograph together. Gavin followed her without hesitation, as he always did, oblivious to the fact that the small enclosed space held a moment that would change the trajectory of their lives forever. Stepping inside the photo booth, the canvas curtains closed behind them, filtering the vibrant afternoon sunlight into a soft, warm, intimate glow that enveloped them completely. The automated prompt on the screen began counting down, setting off a sequence of 4 quick flashes. For the first photograph, they both leaned in close and struck a goofy pose, making silly faces that had defined their light-hearted camaraderie since childhood. The second flash caught them mid-laugh, their shoulders touching, their eyes glowing with genuine warmth and comfort. But as the timer began its 3rd countdown, the atmosphere inside the compact booth shifted dramatically, the playful air evaporating into a heavy, charged silence that made the small space feel suddenly electric. During those brief 3 seconds before the 3rd flash, Gavin turned his head to look at Maeve, intending to make another joke, but stopped entirely as he caught her gaze. Her eyes were fixed on his, stripped of all humor, holding a raw, breathtaking vulnerability that he had never seen in her before. The 3rd flash went off, illuminating the sudden stillness between them, but neither of them looked at the screen. Maeve took a soft, shuddering breath, her hands reaching up to gently touch the lapel of his jacket, her fingers trembling slightly against the fabric. In that split second, as the numbers on the screen began their final countdown from 3 to 1, the years of hesitation, fear, and self-doubt seemed to vanish from her expression, replaced by a desperate, beautiful resolve. Before the final flash could illuminate the booth, Maeve closed the small distance between them, cupping his face in her hands and pressing her lips to his in a kiss that was urgent, passionate, and filled with a decade of unexpressed love. Gavin's breath caught in his throat, his heart slamming against his ribs as the sheer truth of her touch surged through him like a sudden electrical current. For a fleeting moment, time seemed to stand entirely still inside that sun-warmed enclosure, all his doubts and fears dissolving into the warmth of her mouth against his. Just as the magnitude of what was happening washed over his soul, the bright, blinding light of the fourth and final flash burst across the booth, capturing the exact second their lips were locked together, freezing their ultimate confession in time. The heavy velvet curtains parted a moment later as the booth automatically printed the strip of photos into the outdoor tray, forcing them back into the bright, uncompromising light of the afternoon. Stunned and breathless, Gavin stepped out onto the sunlit grass, his pulse hammering in his ears as Maeve pulled the freshly printed paper strip from the dispenser. The bright sunlight illuminated the four sequential frames, the goofy face, the shared laughter, the silent realization, and finally, the undeniable, passionate kiss. Panic suddenly washed over Maeve's features as she stared at the physical evidence of her impulsive action, the reality of what she had done crashing down upon her. Fearing that she had overstepped a boundary and destroyed their sacred bond, her cheeks flushed bright red, and before Gavin could find his voice to speak, she turned and hurried away through the garden crowd, leaving him standing alone in the warm afternoon air holding the photo strip. Gavin stood frozen under the vast blue sky, his mind racing as he stared down at the four pictures in his hands. The visual progression was unmistakable. It was a story of two people moving from safe friendship to total, unshielded truth in a matter of seconds. Instead of fear, a profound sense of clarity filled his chest, washing away years of internal anxiety. He realized that the silence he had kept for so long was not protecting their friendship at all, but rather keeping them both trapped in a shadow of what they truly meant to be. He knew he could not let her slip away into regret or shame, nor could he allow another sun to set on the unspoken feelings that belonged in the light of day. Holding the photograph tightly, Gavin walked through the sunlit estate gardens, searching the manicured lawns and stone walkways until he found her sitting alone on a wooden bench tucked beneath the wide canopy of an ancient oak tree. Golden light filtered through the leaves, casting dancing shadows across her dress as she sat with her face buried in her hands, her shoulders tense with distress. As Gavin approached, the soft crunch of gravel under his shoes made her look up, her eyes wide with apprehension and fear that she had ruined the most important relationship in her life. She began to offer a rushed, tearful apology, blaming the emotion of the wedding and the intimacy of the booth for her sudden lack of control. Gavin gently sat down beside her on the bench, taking her trembling hands into his own under the bright afternoon sun, effectively cutting off her frantic words. Looking directly into her eyes with an unconditional tenderness that wiped away all her anxiety, he told her softly that the only mistake made in that booth was that she had been brave enough to do what he should have done years ago. He confessed his long-kept secret, explaining how every choice he had made, every moment he had stayed by her side, was rooted in a deep, unwavering love that had only grown stronger with time. He opened his heart completely, explaining that his upcoming move across the country was a reality he had been terrified to share, not because he wanted to leave, but because he could not bear the thought of a life where she was not by his side as his true partner. Tears spilled over Maeve's cheeks, catching the golden sunlight as she listened to his words, the heavy weight of fear instantly lifting from her shoulders. She placed her hand over his, admitting that the thought of him leaving had been the very thing that broke her silence, pushing her to take the leap inside the photo booth before it was too late. On that sun-drenched afternoon, surrounded by the quiet beauty of nature and the distant sounds of celebration, two best friends let go of the emotional armors they had worn for a decade. They forgave each other for the wasted time, for the fears that had kept them apart, and chose to step boldly into a shared future defined by honesty, trust, and deep romantic devotion. Sitting together under the oak tree with the afternoon sun shining brightly around them, they looked down at the four-frame photo strip once more, laughing softly at the progression of their journey captured in paper and ink. What started as an ordinary afternoon at a friend's wedding had transformed into the powerful beginning of their real story together, proving that sometimes the greatest risk you can take is simply showing your true heart to the person who already holds it. What would you have done if you found yourself trapped between the fear of losing a lifelong friendship and the longing for something deeper? Have you ever had a moment where a single instant of courage changed your life forever? Please leave a meaningful comment below sharing your thoughts on love, risk, and second chances. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey.